Amazing, Shelley. Welcome to Spark TV. I'm so excited to have you.
Thanks for having me. I'm pumped too. I'm surprised that it's well, I guess we're just working out that it's 12 o'clock my time, but it's 9 a.m. your time. So I've got an early bevy and you're on the coffees.
I'm on the coffees today, which is so off-brand for me. Somebody's going to get mad at me for not being on the booze.
Well, I mean, you could have kind of had
today.
Well, that's right. You could have kind of had a mimosa, but I still think it is early for
Oh
your
my
time.
God, a mimosa would have been such a good idea. I cannot believe I did not think of that. Oh my God.
For the
That
next
is
one,
life-changing.
you can have a
Life-changing.
mimosa and everyone will be fine. But like 9 a.m. mimosas are fun.
Oh my God, that is so good. Okay, I'm stealing that for future episodes. You heard it
Nice.
here first, everybody. Oh my God, I love it so much. Well, before we just start gas bagging, let's tell everybody what you do. So I know your biz is Boldside, but what is it? What is your, the impact that you make in the world?
Yeah. So basically, I run a business called Boldside, and we're on a mission to build standout leaders and epic teams. And that's really the core of what I do. And it's a really fun gig. Like, it is weird. Like, people are weird. And so my
Oh
whole,
my God, people are so weird. Yeah.
oh, aren't they? Like, I'm weird, you're weird, we're all weird.
Yeah.
When you're a leader, though, and you're dealing with the weirdness of people, it can be really challenging, right?
Mm-hmm.
And really taxing. And so that's where I come in. I love weird people stuff. It's like my jam. So I'm like right there in there. And yeah, I just really love to help leaders get the most out of their team, but also create an environment that people really want to be there. They want to show up. They want to be engaged. And it's a really hard gig. Like, you would know this when you start a business and you're like, all of a sudden you've had this full technical skill set that you've built over many years. And then all of a sudden you're like, I've got all this technical expertise, but then I have to lead a team.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't naturally evolve. I think organizations think and businesses think, if I've got this technical skill set, I can step into leadership and just figure it out. It's not easy.
No, so you're literally describing me. So I was a salesperson for a decade. So working for big corporate, rising through the ranks and thinking that I was like better than sliced bread. Decided to start my own business, and of course I took on the sales for the business, so fabulous, but I was always a lone wolf, right? Like in sales, the harder you work, the more money you make, happy days. But you are right, then you start your own business and it's like, yes, that's one part of my job is to grow the business, but then I have to hire these people to do all the other things. And then I was like, oh my God, why are you whining to me about your sick cat?
That's right. And it's like, I love that. I was talking to a leader who I work with the other day, and she is just like, I love my job so much. I just don't like dealing with people. I feel that on a deep level because that's the thing. It's you get into a business to do what you love to do. And then as it grows, all of a sudden you need people around you. Totally. And so it becomes more about how do you mobilize a team and less about how do I do my technical skill set. And that can be really sad in some ways.
Oh my God. I was literally talking to a founder the other day and they're like, it's not fun anymore because I don't do the thing that I love to do. And the whole reason why I started the business was to solve this problem, but that's not my job anymore. My job is to be the CEO and to lead the people and they're like, this sucks.
Yeah, right.
So it's such a mindset shift.
And I think what happens, and this is why we see startups when they make that transition point and they've had all this rapid growth, then eventually the founder has to make the choice. Do I step into the CEO gig and fully own that? Or do I become the founder? And we interviewed on our podcast, I do a podcast called My Millennial Career, and we interviewed Amantha Imber, who has had this incredible, amazingly successful career. And she works with like Pixar and Google and all these huge, Atlassian, all these huge businesses. And she, in her own journey, has just stepped out of the CEO role into the chief maker, where she gets to do all the stuff she got into the business to do.
Yeah.
And
That's
she doesn't.
Brilliant.
brilliant, because a CEO is it's that in and of itself, the leadership gig is a technical skill set that has to be invested in. You don't just wing it.
Yeah.
Right? People think they can wing it, and I tell you, you can't wing leadership. And so that's a really long, rambly way of saying this is what I do. I work at Boldside and I fix people problems.
I love it so much. I love it so much. And I think, you know, I mean, there's so much to talk about, but even just that point of stepping into a, you know, a more defined role other than the CEO. I think when we become business founders, we think we have to be the CEO, you know, and we think that there's some kind of shame associated with not being the CEO and almost, you know, resigning to the fact that we're not good at that skill set. But I love how you just described it as a skill set, because you are so right. There are career CEOs who are never going to be founders, who are never going to be that, you know, more creative type to start something, to love the hustle and all of that stuff. But that doesn't, you know, discount your skill set as a founder. You know, it's really about understanding what you're good at.
Yeah, you're spot on. Like, I love that idea of career CEO, but they can't do the founding role, which is nuts. Like, you know, that journey is so huge, and it's not for everyone. It's not a cop-out or an opt-out to move roles. And I love hearing, and if anyone wants to listen, we could probably put it in the show notes.
Yes.
But like, I can put in the Mantha's story is just amazing I love even the name, like Chief Maker.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah. Anyway, it's good. It's a good like process to go through, right? To really unpack, is this where I still want to be as a founder? Do I still want to lead a team, or do I want to be doing more of what I love?
Are there any tips for founders who have no experience being a leader, but want to start that journey, you know? And I know that you obviously support people on that, but if anyone's listening and going, oh my God, I'm in the middle of a crisis, you know, how do we become leaders?
Oh yeah. What a huge question. How do we become leaders? I think
we need a bottle of wine for this discussion,
my gosh,
don't we?
Right? Totally. For me, it's this first process of, is that a Ghostbusters cup?
Yes.
Good. Very good.
It is. And I think that there was just a bug I think I might have just swallowed a bug. Okay.
Well, this is happening.
This is authentic. This is real. I think I just swallowed a bug on the podcast. Oh my God.
I love it. Sorry, got the giggles. So how do we become leaders? Well, the first thing for me is self-awareness. So how do you first become aware of the gaps, of your own weaknesses, of the things that you do that actually hinder people's ability to perform? Because you can't lead people if you're not aware of your own shortcomings in that role. And so I would be doing a bit of a self-awareness journey. And there's this amazing book by Ryan Holiday, who I love. He's such a beautiful author. Oh, isn't he amazing? I'm not sure if you've read it, but Ego is the Enemy.
No, I haven't. I've got a couple of his books on my shelf, and of course I don't have my glasses on to even be able to
spot it.
to see what the title is. But I've got a couple. One of my board members gives me one of his books every year. Like, I'm pretty sure the last one was something like, you know, rest is the way, or like whatever it is. It's some kind of like stop.
Obstacle is the way.
Obstacle is the way. That's it. And there's something about silence or something. Yeah. But he's amazing. Anyway, keep going.
He is amazing. And
we're going to get so sidetracked on this chat, aren't we?
But there's a good point to it. So ego is the enemy. And if you are a leader, if you've been a leader for a long time, or if you're a new leader, you need to read this book, because it really goes into the impact of ego, especially for leaders who are really gifted if you're really talented in your technical skill set. It's easy to fall into this trap where you think that will just translate into skills to influence a team, to create a beautiful culture that people want to show up and engage and perform. And it's not, it often doesn't end up like that until you've developed the skills. So going back to what are my strengths? How am I leveraging those? What are my gaps? And then who do I have around me that can help me with my blind spots? because often we know our weaknesses, we know we're cognizant of some of our strengths, but who's speaking into these are your blind spots as a leader, because they're the things that our team are going to feel most acutely, because they're the things we're just completely unaware of or oblivious to, and they have such a impact. And so starting with that self-awareness journey, and then getting a coach, getting someone who can work alongside you and give you those truths in kindness.
Yes.
How do we share a good, solid truth that, hey, like, Joe, you really dropped the ball there with that person. You didn't show enough empathy, and that's not going to help you get the most out of them. How do we do that differently?
Yeah.
So that would be my encouragement of where to start as a leader.
Yeah, I love that too, because I think, you know, it's really difficult as founders, because I think in the early days, we're wearing so many hats and we think we have to do everything. And then when we start to bring a team together, you know, yes, that feels like the next best milestone, but letting go of the tasks is hard enough. And then actually, you know, the next level down, which is the understanding the gaps and our blind spots, that's huge. You know, we think we have to be the best at everything. And I love the idea of actually bringing in a coach or a mentor or somebody that can actually, I love how you phrased it, something in kindness, like the,
yeah, truth and kindness.
Truth and
absolutely.
Kindness. Exactly. Yeah, because it doesn't have to be a bad thing, recognizing what our blind spots are.
Yeah, and as a founder, and especially when you're in that kind of early phase, you can get in your little bubble, and you don't, because when you're in, if you think back to your days in corporate, you've got lots of voices, you've got lots of opportunity for feedback, you've got peer feedback, you've got your manager's feedback, you've got direct reports who give you feedback.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're in your business bubble, you can get quite isolated quite quickly.
Totally.
And not have those people speaking in saying, hey, you did this really well. I absolutely loved when you did that. And I think we need to do this better. And every person who leads people needs feedback.
Oh, I love that so much. And it's our responsibilities, I think, as founders to make that happen, right?
Yeah. Invest in it, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, so good. So how do you see, you know, I'm super just interested to explore this leadership space. So how do you see early leaders get tripped up? Like, what is the common things that you see leaders kind of trip up against that might be easy for them to overcome?
Yeah, I think
maybe nothing's easy to overcome, but who knows?
It's a good way to put it. How do they get tripped up? What are the traps? I think the first trap is new leaders feel they need to know it all. They need to have the answers. And actually, your team don't expect you to know everything. They don't expect you to have the answers. In fact, if you're open about that you don't know, they're going to appreciate that way more than thinking their leader is a know-it-all.
Yes.
No one wants to work for a person like that, right?
Totally.
So the humility,
and I think that hinders the team's ability to make decisions on their own as well.
Exactly.
You're the type of leader that does know it all and is doing everything and just giving direction, then you're not actually allowing for growth in your business. Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, that's huge. That is what you just said there. I love that, Danielle, of so the first thing is like, okay, well, you don't have to have the answers. You don't need to know everything, and be vulnerable enough to admit when you don't know. And then I think, to your point, the second thing is you have to release control.
Yeah.
And like we're all control freaks. Like if you get into a business like this, like I'm such a control freak. And I listened to one of your podcasts with 9 Yards, I think it was, and I heard you talk about your own kind of journey in your career. And I think you get into starting your own business because you want to have that sense of, I've got this strategy and vision and creative kind of view of what it looks like, and I want to control us getting there. Yeah. And all of a sudden, if you've got, all of a sudden you've got 10 people, 20 people, whatever it is, and you're like, oh, I have to release control.
Totally.
But how do I trust my team? And so the last thing would be building trust. So we start with, you don't have to have all the answers, and you have to release control, and then you have to build trust. And so I need to build an environment with my team. You need to build it with yours of how do we trust each other enough to release control and also hold each other accountable when we drop the ball.
Yeah. So, you know, as a founder myself, I'm listening to that and going, oh my God, I don't know where to start. I you know, get the concepts, but holy crap, that seems hard. So then I only assume that you and your business would support founders and leaders going through this process. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, I think it's hard. This is an interesting thing of like, that feels hard. Is it hard to build trust? I don't necessarily think it's hard to build trust, but it's easy to lose it.
Yeah.
So the way that I would start to build trust with the team and as a leader to relinquish some of the control, because that's what you have to do. If you want to get to that next level, you have to relinquish some of the control to your team, is I would start by setting the expectations of the team. And so I come in and do these types of things where I'd work with that leader or team to go, well, how do we want to behave as a team? What are the expectations around trust and accountability? What do we look like when we're operating at our best?
Yep.
And what do we look like at our worst? And one thing that I love, Danielle, it's so funny because we don't talk about this enough in teams, but getting everyone in the team to share their pet peeves. So literally go around the room.
Yep.
If there's 10 people, go around the room. And you don't need a consultant to do this, right? You can do it DIY. Sit in a team meeting and say, hey, we're going to share the best things we do on this team, what we love, and what are our pet peeves. And once you start to hear around the room and, you know, John says, I really don't like, Shelley, when you rock up 10 minutes late to our one-on-one. I find that really disrespectful. And I'm like, oh, I'm just in a world of chaos and I'm never like, and I'm in my own little head. But I don't realize the impact of my behavior that John's saying, well, that actually deteriorates trust. And that makes me feel like you don't respect my time. Or, you know, Sarah says, hey, like when you text me an abrupt message about something I did that I could do better, can that be a phone call? Like just, you start to go around and you hear, okay, we've got some stuff, simple things that we could do to fix and build trust, build accountability, and understand what works well for some people doesn't necessarily work well for others. So you want to bring all the stuff that's underneath the surface to the surface. It's vulnerable. It can be pretty nerve-wracking, but it's such a trust builder. And then from there, that's like your springboard, and you progress over time where you start to share more honest feedback with the team. And that would be where I would begin to build that culture of trust.
I love that so much because literally the actions that came out of that exercise were so simple, you know, like, so at the, you know, 2 minutes ago, I'm stressing going, how the hell do I go through this process? But literally like breaking it down to as simple as having a conversation with people, you know, and asking them to share and then going, oh my God, the stuff that's coming out, so simple. Yet if it doesn't get addressed, it does just bubble away under the surface.
Well, and I would say it does more than bubble away. It snowballs. So it's funny how on teams, we have this thing happen where and as leaders, we're so busy, right? We have so much on and we think, I need to talk to that person about that thing that's annoying me. I need to talk to that person. I need to talk to that person. But we kind of put it off because it's an avoidance strategy.
Yes.
But also because we're like,
very triggered.
We're triggered. So we've got this avoidance strategy going on, but we also feel really busy and pressured and we don't know how to have that conversation. And setting the scene as a team and go, hey, we want this environment to be an environment that we all love to be in. And to do that, we have to understand what we like and don't like about working on this team. Like, and that's going to be different for every person because what I like is going to be different, Danielle, to what you like and what John likes. But knowing it and just opening up the dialogue, and you can get someone in to facilitate it for you, or you can do it yourself. It doesn't matter. It's just about that you're stepping into the messiness and uncomfortableness and allowing the things that you mentioned that are bubbling under the surface to come up. And once they're up, we can actually address them. But if we don't know what they are, we just live in an ignorant world where we're trying to figure it out on the fly.
Oh, and it's so good. I love that you use the word uncomfortable because, earlier when I was like, it seems too hard. I think it's uncomfortable. I think that is the right word, and stepping into that and being vulnerable and being able to go, oh yeah, this might suck, who knows what people are going to say, but also it might just be those like tiny little things that are so easy to fix that actually, makes a huge change in the business.
Yes. And it's just instantly, you can feel when we do this. And I did this with a team last week at ANZ actually, and we were workshopping what are our behaviors when we are at our best and at our worst, and what are the things that we see unfold. And once you get them on the table, the ones that everyone says, well, that's us at our worst, everyone just like breathes a collective sigh of relief, like finally we've all agreed that that is bad.
Yeah.
we all knew, no one talked about it. It was but we've just brought it up, and now we can go, okay, cool. We've all acknowledged we don't like that behavior. Like we don't like when people bitch about each other behind their backs because it detracts from trust. So what are we going to do instead? Instead, we're going to make sure that before we go and bitch about it to Sarah, we're going to go and talk to John directly and say, hey, mate, this is not working. Can we look at ways to improve this?
I love that. And again, it's just coming back to having conversations, and asking the question, which yes, might be a little bit uncomfortable, but so easy when you think about it.
Yes, totally. And people want to talk about it. It's just giving them the platform to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about, does this translate to remote teams? Because I know we're now living in this world where we've got fully remote companies, we've got hybrid, we've got everyone back in the same office. How does that throw a new element into what we're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we need to be investing, it's so funny. So I love being in person with people, and as a HR person, and even running that workshop that I did on Friday, I was of last week, and just having 15 people in the room, there's just something really special about it. So I want to say first, I love those moments, and I just don't think you can replace them. I also recognize most of our teams are remote, so we absolutely need to do it, and we have to become more intentional with how we do it. So one thing I encourage leaders and teams to do is when they're remote, and let's say we've got 15 people on a remote team meeting, it's an all-in, everyone's in together. Yeah. And the default for remote work environments is the quieter team members, they actually get overlooked. So they don't get to voice their concerns because the dominant verbal processors like me overtake the whole conversation. So sorry if I'm doing that right now.
No, it's brilliant. I love it.
Are you a verbal processor, Danielle?
Oh, I'm a mixed bag.
Okay.
I'm kind of like the extroverted, introvert, extrovert, whatever it is. So, I have my moments of, because I love this, right? Like, so talking is my game. I'm a salesperson through and through, like literally this is all I do, but I tend not to be very confrontational. So I will hold back and I won't say anything, and I'll avoid the uncomfortable situations. So I don't want anyone to be mad. So I really, really had to learn that and how to actually speak up as a leader and ask people uncomfortable questions and be okay with that. But I think I had to learn, I think as a business owner and founder, I think your whole job is to be uncomfortable. I think that's welcome I've learned to in business. Just be uncomfortable all the time and you'll be fine.
My sister actually, she sent me, she's been doing her own business for a long time, whereas, I've only just started this year. And she sent me this message when I launched the business of, welcome to running your own business. You now join the club of paralyzing self-doubt.
Yes.
I feel that on a deep level.
Absolutely. I'm 10 years in and I still feel that. So,
Okay, I look forward to being 10 years on.
That's why this podcast is over wine, because it's like therapy.
That's right. It is like therapy. I love that. So good. I mean, going back to the remote team stuff, if you are a leader and you have a fully remote team and you work from wherever, the way I would do it is your team meetings start with the quieter team members first. It's tricky for them because it does make them feel uncomfortable, but it means that their voice is heard. So the way I'd frame it up is saying to those people independently in like a one-on-one context, hey, we're going to restructure our remote teams meetings. Mm-hmm. I'm going to ask you and invite you to speak earlier because I don't want you to get overcrowded because we need to hear your voice. And we want to make sure that that's heard. So can I invite you to share up front? And just actually asking them if they're sweet with that. In most cases they will be because they want to be invited in.
I love also giving them warning, so they know this is the topic of the call I'm about to be on, and I will be asked to speak up front. So maybe a little prep so I'm not feeling overwhelmed wouldn't go astray.
Exactly.
Versus us people who just speak all the time. We all just think on our feet and we'll just start rambling and go, yeah, I know. And then the whole meeting's over.
And everyone's like, oh, they did that thing again that we all said in our pet peeves. Yeah. We don't want you to keep doing. It's just that's a
great idea. I love that.
And then I think it's becoming, we need both. So you get really intentional with your remote meetings, but when you're in person, that in-person time, do it as a retreat. Like I was a team member that has a fully remote team. They have staff overseas as well as locally across all of Australia. And when they get together annually, they do a 2-day retreat conference style. And it is amazing, the investment, because they say, well, we only get together really twice a year. Yeah. But that big annual one is just, they go all out because they say, when we're all together, this time is going to be core culture building. Like it is all culture. It's all about creating this amazing experience for our employees. And I just think that is priceless. Like you cannot beat those moments. So just being really intentional with that in-person time as well.
Yeah, I love that so much. And, it is really hard to replicate in-person time remotely. I think, I love the idea of making sure that the quieter team members get the opportunity to go first. But, I think you do have to dot in culture building things.
Yeah.
And be more intentional about it when you're remote, because you do miss, you can just create a bond so quickly when you're in person. It is really difficult over video. As much as you have your daily whips or your weekly stand-ups or whatever's, sometimes they feel super transactional, and sometimes culture building things can feel quite forced, but you really do have to be intentional about it when you're remote.
Oh, wow. I love that. I'm just thinking about that as you're talking. That is so good around that word transactional and also forced. Like I'm thinking about those two dynamics when it comes to culture. The last thing you want with your team is this sense of a transactional culture or like forced fun. And I'm air quoting like, oh, I just cringe. Like
you have to show up at 4:00 on a Friday with a drink remotely, and we're going to play some games. It's like, oh,
kill me now.
Do it.
Yeah, totally. So I think it's, how do you get input from your team on what do they actually want? Because some teams are happy to do like the online trivia and board games and whatever, and other people are like, heck no, I don't want to be there. I don't want to do that. So what are the alternatives? And I think culture is less about fun in inverted commas and more about how do we have authenticity on this team? Yeah. Like how do we have real conversations that get to the heart of issues? How do we overcome our fear of conflict and avoidance so that we can have this really healthy, robust dynamic where we all understand each other really well and we understand the goals of the business and we're all driving towards that. And that's what I think people want on teams, less about we do this tokenistic kind of fun thing over here. I'm not downplaying that. That's really important to have social events, but do it in a way that is not transactional, but relational and real.
Yeah. I love that so much, because I think things have evolved so much in the last few years, right? 3, 4, 5 years ago, it was really the startup culture of ping pong table, beers, wine in the fridge. Like that was culture. That's how we defined culture. Yes. And, and we were all together, we were all in person, and, you'd have your people that would or would not show up to different social events and what have you. But I feel like the last couple of years where we have gone more remote, I think it's forced us to take a bit of a step back and go, that's exactly what you said, right? Like, that's not what culture is. It's not the, it just goes so deep. And I think at the heart of it, exactly what you said, really understanding what your team actually wants, because every team is so different. I know people who have purposely built all female teams or mum teams, depending on what their product is. So, you really have to actually have conversation and understand what's important to everybody before you can even define what your culture is.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned the ping pong tables, right?
I hate the ping pong table.
I hate the ping pong tables. When when I launched my business, for some of my marketing photos, we got this ping pong, and this guy who did the photos, so cool, and it's really fun and catchy around, like, culture is more than table tennis. Like,
yeah, nice.
And if we think about relationships, so let's get work off the table for a sec, but think about healthy relationships. Because an employment relationship is that. It's two ways. A healthy relationship is not surface. And I think about ping pong tables and foosball tables, and, that's fine, but that's surface.
Yeah.
The deep relationships are the ones we really want to stick out. It's those ones where you've seen me at my worst and you stuck by me. Like, those are the kinds of relationships that are healthy because they have depth. For me, saying to my team member, if there's a healthiness in the relationship, it will be like me being able to, with ease, give them constructive feedback and know that we're going to be better off overall for sharing it. But when you've got a surface relationship with a team member, you're often afraid to give them direct feedback because we will be worried that it will damage the relationship. And that's when we know that it's not deep. That's when we know we're still at the surface level. So go deep in those relationships in terms of, like, you don't have to know all the ins and outs of, like, every single problem in their lives. Like, actually, that's not what I mean. What I mean is that we have enough trust that I can sit down and say to someone, I feel really let down by what happened, or I feel that your behavior was quite entitled and that's disappointing. Can we talk about that? That's what I mean when there's depth in the relationship. The ultimate outcome of that conversation is that you and that person will have a stronger relationship as a result.
Yeah. I love that, because I think you're spot on. I think as early leaders, we mistake being employees' best friends for being their boss and leaders. And we worry that if we say the wrong thing, they're going to hate us and quit. you know?
Yes, totally.
But if we, and I love how you said, put work to the side, because it's relationships, and we wouldn't think that way about our best friends or about anyone we have a relationship with. We would know that the relationship is strong enough to be able to say, hey, that really sucked, and still be fine. So I think you're right. We need to actually focus on having the type of relationship with our employees where we can be honest with them and have open conversations and give feedback, because at the end of the day, you want them to grow as well, right? This isn't just a work for me for the next 2 years and move on. Like, this should be a stepping stone for, growth for them, promotions within your company, or having them off on their way doing the next amazing thing.
Well, it goes back to what you said before, Danielle, of transactional. Like, do you be a transactional leader where you just go, I'm going to get 3 good years out of this person and then see you later? Yeah. Or do I want them to grow with my business, and do I want to invest in them? Because I think that is what, like, a good leader does. They want to invest in their people. And I think if you're listening right now and you run a business and you want transformational results, you cannot have a transactional approach to leadership. You just can't. Like, it doesn't work. And so how do you connect with your employees? You don't have to be best friends. And in fact, you probably don't want to have that dynamic. Although I've seen leaders who've worked with people and become super close friends. And I think that is beautiful. It's more about how do we have that health and honesty in our relationship and trust, and that they feel they're safe. And this idea of psychological safety in teams is a really important one. And so there's so much, obviously, we can cover in this leadership space, but I do think it comes down to, you start with yourself and understanding your gaps, and then you look at, how do I build this trust, the trust within the team, so that people can thrive and flourish, and then ultimately they help the business succeed.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's awesome. So let's take a huge right turn, left turn here, because we're running out of time. And I'm so keen, because you go into businesses, right? You see, intimately inside other people's businesses, but I'm super keen for you to reflect on your own business, and starting that, were there any lessons that you've learned since starting your business that you were surprised by, or,
Oh my gosh, where do we begin? Well, I mean, I almost need like a countdown timer. So I'm like, don't waffle, don't go over, because I could go down so many rabbit holes. So there's been heaps of learnings, and I'm like, I only 6 months in, right? So I've been doing I started Boldside in May this year, so not long ago, but I've been running this podcast, My Millennial Career, co-hosting this podcast, sorry, I should say, for 3 years. And that's done really well, which kind of is what gave me the platform, or maybe the confidence to think, I think I could do my own thing. And then I launched it, and I was like, holy crap, can I actually do it? Do I have what it takes? And all the questions, all those internal questions that you have around your own skill and capability, and so that it's been a huge process of crippling self-doubt. But
you are amazing, if it helps.
Thank you. I just know I'll cling on to that.
Absolutely.
The biggest learning for me, and I was thinking about this podcast beforehand, and what would I say has been the biggest challenge and growth so far, has been this idea of not outsourcing my emotions. So one of the things that I have found is I've transitioned from, I've had a really long, great career in HR, but I've transitioned into starting this business, and totally the opposite of you, no sales background at all, zero sales skills. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so one of the things I found that I was doing is my emotions would be dependent on whether I got the sale or not.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah.
And I was outsourcing a lot of my emotional stability to external factors. Yeah. And that creates a world of anxiety and fear.
Oh
right?
My God. Yes.
Every time I would get, and I started to, I'm very, very observant of my own emotions. So I would become quite reflective after a client meeting, and the person signed on, and I was on a high for 2 days, probably just an absolute high.
Yeah.
And then I'd have the no meeting the next week where they said, no, can't do it, too expensive, or too this or too that, whatever the reasons. And I was like in the pit of despair.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I started to go, this is not going to be sustainable for me. How I'm just outsourcing my emotional health to other people, and I can't afford to do that for my family. I can't afford to do that for myself. Yep. So what do I do instead? Yeah. And one of the things has been setting, and I know Adam Grant talks a lot about this in his book, Think Again, of how do you set intrinsic goals instead of extrinsic goals. So what I was doing is externalizing all of my sense of value to success or money coming in or sales being, getting the tick. And instead now I'm going, well, I need to set internal goals that I can actually achieve, that are not dependent on someone else's decision making. And holy crap, that's so hardcore. Like this week I had the same thing. I had a client come through and say, yep, let's do it. And it was a big gig. And I was like, yes. And I had to taper it right back and go, no. It's okay to be excited, right? I'm not saying don't be excited, but I'm not going to tie my value to landing the deal.
I am so glad you brought this up because I feel you're so spot on, right? Like it's so funny. You know how you like hear things you need to hear, and I'm going, oh my God, this is literally what I'm doing right now. Like I was in the worst mood yesterday, and it's tying your value to other people's validation. So I've got a post-it full of things that you've said now.
Good.
But it's so true. Like, you know, because I've often heard people talk about, so because we have the roller coaster, the highs of highs and the lows of lows, people often, the way they've described it to me in the past is the tapering. So I just try not to get too excited about something so that the low's not too low. But I actually think what they're doing is just controlling their emotions, but not actually changing the input. I love what you just said about, no, my value is not tied to the yes or the no, and actually setting goals that you can literally control. That is awesome. That is the wisdom. That's so cool.
And it's such it's so obviously very difficult to master. Like I'm like in this really early stages of figuring out, again, I'm laughing that we keep coming back to this self-awareness, but it's having the awareness enough to be in tune with what your emotional response is to something and going, that is not a healthy response. It's kind of the same as like emotional, like responses to eating. Like my thing where, I didn't get a deal. Now I need a bazillion Maltesers to get me through, like whatever that is. But I guess
mine's actually salt and vinegar chips. So.
Oh, is it? Nice. Oh no! If I ever see you in real life and you've got salt and vinegar chips on hand, I'll know.
You know,
are you okay?
Just avoid me.
Are you doing okay? It'd be good to have some of those signals, right?
Yeah.
But that's been the big lesson, and it's been hugely challenging. Like the honest version is the other side for me is I've always been a confident person, I would say, for most of my career until I started this business. And I've called it like Boldside, right? I'm trying to do this thing that's like helping leaders have bold conversations at work with their teams. But for me, when I launched it, Danielle, I was in like a world of fear. And so much so that I was like, this is not me. Like, why am I so afraid? And so I have done a bit of deep processing on that of trying to look at, okay, well, what am I afraid of? And a lot of it's come down to fear of failure and fear of what other people think.
Yeah.
And again, it's the externalizing my value. It's that same issue of pushing my sense of self-worth to external factors instead of finding, okay, no, I need to be able to find my own value and worth in something that's more meaningful than what other people think or whether I succeed or fail.
Oh my God, you are absolutely incredible. Thank you so much, Shelley, for being so honest.
No worries.
I'm not even joking. I've got a post note of books and concepts. And so I just know if I'm getting this kind of value, everybody listening in as well will be. So I cannot thank you enough for sharing your insights and wisdom with the Spark community. You're amazing.
Oh, thank you so much, Danielle, for having me. It's actually like a therapy session for me. So it's been awesome.
Perfect. I love it.